my mind is made up.
Hey guys, this is Eric Kyle, publisher of Latitudes and Attitudes magazine.
And I'm David Levesque, editor of Latitudes and Attitudes, and welcome to Three Sheets, our podcast where we chill and chat with individuals making a difference in the cruising lifestyle.
Each episode, we'll dive into all things cruising related and bring you some of the most influential characters out there. So sit back, grab your favorite bottle, light them if you got them, and enjoy the adventure. Hey guys, Eric Kyle here, publisher of Latitudes and Attitudes magazine, and I am wanting to welcome everybody today to Three Sheets Podcast, where we talk about some of the most influential people in the cruising lifestyle world. And today we're joined by David Levesque, editor of Latitudes and Attitudes. David, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. You said we interview some of the most influential people out there, so what the hell are we doing with Logan and Caroline?
So I'm walking down the street, they had their thumb out, picked them up, said, hey, let's just go ahead and put them on a podcast.
Jesus, it's like we had nobody else left. It's just, hey, how about you guys?
You're at the bottom of the barrel.
Are you free? Sure, let's do it.
David, why don't you introduce Logan and Caroline? And that would be nice, and maybe tell us a little bit about them so that they can say hi too.
Well, and can you tell us why you pronounce your name wrong as well? I've been pronouncing your name totally different, and clearly I'm right, and there's something wrong with the way you're pronouncing your name.
Who are you talking to?
How do you pronounce? Where does your name from?
Levesque.
The letter
Levesque?
Levesque, is that really how it's pronounced?
Yes.
I love it. Okay, this is news. This is great.
How have you been saying it?
Levesque.
No, you haven't. Jeez.
Oh, that's how it reads.
It's a French thing.
Do we have a backup guest we can throw in here real quick?
Bring somebody in that isn't.
Bring
somebody in that's not David's little brother.
Holy crap! At this point in time. So, anyways, if you're talking to Logan, he'd probably say he doesn't need any kind of introduction because whatever. But, anyways, Logan and Caroline, and Caroline's laughing. She's like, "Listen, behind every great man is a woman rolling her eyes." Right? So
that's exactly right.
We get to see that this entire podcast. So Logan, we had the pleasure of hanging out, hooking up, whatever, with Logan a few years ago. One of the founders of YCA, Young Cruisers Association. We got involved with these guys. When we roughly around the time we took over this fine publication called Latitudes and Attitudes magazine. And quite frankly, all kidding aside, the partnership has been phenomenal. These guys live and promote what it is that our magazine is all about. So the synergy could not be more perfect.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Levesque. We're happy to be here. Thanks for having us. And we're glad you've run through everybody else and you finally landed on
finally got us
to us.
You're on the magic wheel, Logan. So tell us a little bit about you guys and let our listeners and our viewers kind of get to know you a bit.
Ooh, I don't know where to start.
Okay.
I'll start.
Okay. Yep.
So I am born and raised in the mountains of North Carolina. Long way from the ocean. But my bedroom was always full of entire wallpapers of Caribbean scenes, and I made my parents take my bed out at one point as a kid and put in a hammock. And I didn't sleep for like 2 weeks, but I didn't want to admit it. So I was a zombie. But my whole childhood was, I think, growing up in the mountains, skiing and mountain biking and whitewater kayaking kind of at my back door. I always wanted something different. And so I started kind of dreaming of getting to the ocean pretty young. And then that became a mission. So always sailed as a kid, sailed on lakes and enjoyed sailing, had an uncle that raced sailboats, and then took off after high school. Parents gave me a year to sow some wild oats. I was an absolute kind of a wild child in high school. Didn't get in any real trouble, but was a bit of a maniac. And so they were happy for me to take a year off and bought a boat. My senior year of high school, sold my car and my bicycles and snowboards and everything I could kind of scrap together to buy a boat, and went sailing for a year. And that kind of triggered everything kind of started to fall from there. After that, worked in the industry in some way, shape or form, been involved in the boating industry since then. That was 18, broke the mast off on the way to the Caribbean, turned back for the Bahamas, fell in love with the Bahamas, got my first captain's job sitting there. And then it kind of snowballed from there until I went back to school. And I was sitting at UNC Chapel Hill. I was running the sailing club at the time and was volunteering to do the absolute basic 101 entry level classes for students as a way to meet girls. And and Caroline walked in the door.
It worked.
It worked. It worked. Eventually. It took a ways to get there.
I find it cool that you had a bedroom full of posters of snowboarding and skiing and Caribbean stuff, right? Is what you said, Caribbean stuff?
Yeah, you used to be able to get these like you could make your whole wall be one scene. So like it was like wallpaper, but it was a picture. And so my whole wall was this leaning palm tree, Caribbean water. And so that was kind of like at the foot of the bed looking at the wall was like, oh,
I'm pretty sure it's called a mural.
A mural. Yeah,
okay.
There you go.
Eric's bedroom was full of pictures of Farrah Fawcett, Daisy Dukes, and National Geographics, but I digress.
Yeah. So then
I'll pick up from there a little bit. So I grew up in North Carolina, and I grew up like always boating on the weekends at the lake, and we would trailer a boat down to the coast and go out fishing, and sailing was always kind of a dream, but never a part of my life, like just like day boating on center consoles and fishing and things like that. So when I got to UNC, my senior year, my sister was a freshman, and we both kind of made this like agreement that we wanted to spend the year like taking advantage of everything that university could offer for free to like teach us that we wanted to like pursue as hobbies or whatever it may have been. So we both had always wanted to sail. So we went to the UNC Sailing Club meeting, this 101 class that he was teaching. And anyway, walk in, sit down, my boyfriend next to me. And
I'm getting a visual. This dashingly handsome, post acne prepubescent guy is there, teaching a sailing class.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never
And
been tall, dark, or
was
handsome.
Right next to you.
Yeah, my boyfriend was right next to me. He came with me. So anyway, so then after class, my boyfriend, he was like out of there. He was not interested. And then Logan like comes up to me, and I had this pair of croquis on because my family, we would always like, they were really great about like exposing us to, my dad is like obsessed with like the Bahamas and Caribbean life, and like just has always, since we were little, like taken us to places that kind of exposed us to palm trees and crystal clear water. And it was really great and influential, I feel like, on how I got here. And so I had a pair of croquis on that said Soggy Dollar Bar. And so Logan comes up to me and he's like, I see your croquis.
I still remember what I asked you, actually.
Oh, what'd you say?
I said, is that
You're such a
Soggy
dork.
Dollar? I know. I was like, is that Soggy Dollar in BVI, or is that Soggy Dollar in St. Martin?
Okay. That
Anyway.
was the question. Anyway.
You want to know what she was wearing? I can remember that too. Just kidding.
So from there, we just kind of became like quick friends and went out to the lake at UNC, Jordan Lake, and sailed a bit together. And went on a trip to Bald Head, had some fun times there. And then after college, he calls me and he's like, hey,
Side note, really quick. We graduated in 2010.
yeah.
And every single job we'd all been promised from internships, like real corporate jobs and things like that, were gone because of 2008. So there were no jobs for college graduates essentially in 2010.
Yeah, it was a really
And so
environment.
it was a no-brainer to do things like take a job on a boat or do things like that. So
yeah. So he calls me and he's like, hey, what's up? And I was like, oh, not much. Just, in Chapel Hill or wherever I was. I don't even remember. And I'm like, he's like, how's? And he says my boyfriend's name. And I was like, he's no longer in the picture. And I was like, and he's like, so you want to come to Maine this Friday? And I was like, uh. And so, yeah, I decided to go to Maine. It was like probably Tuesday. And I went up to Maine and got on the sailboat with him that he was currently working on as the captain. And we had a great weekend. And then, like a couple months later,
You flew to the Caribbean?
I flew to the Caribbean to join the boat and start working on that sailing yacht. And we were on that together. We did like all of the Caribbean, ABCs, over to Panama, San Blas, went through the canal actually 3 times. We just like kept ping-ponging back and forth between the Caribbean and the Panama or the Pacific side. And then we got struck by lightning in Panama. The boat did. And it was a pretty crazy experience.
The contract
and,
was to take that boat to New Zealand, but we got struck and it fried everything. So we missed our window to get across the Pacific after all the planning and all the permitting. I already had all the permits for the Galapagos. I had everything sorted out.
All right. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
I just want to get this straight.
Here it comes.
You go to Maine,
Yeah.
do a long weekend. Next thing you know, you're in the Caribbean, spending a lot of time on a boat,
Yeah.
in and out the Panama Canal, and you're going to go to New Zealand. So your second sailing adventure was going to cross the Pacific?
I mean, in a sense, yes.
We had 6 or 8 months of sailing before the canal.
Yeah, we did.
On the boat.
We did. But it was definitely my parents were pretty supportive of it because Logan walks in on like, what was that, like Christmas Day?
First time I met him.
First time you met my parents. You show up actually walking to my house because he had crashed his car in the snow. This man from the mountains.
Trustworthy guy.
Flatlands of North Carolina and crashes his car in snow. And
you can trust me.
Yeah. Walking to the house and rings the doorbell. And my dad's like, "Oh, where's your car?" And he's like, "Oh, a mile back."
In a sign.
In a sign. But anyway,
I have so many questions. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut.
So then he like sits down on Christmas Day or whatever. We have a great like Christmas dinner, all that. And he sits down with this itinerary of what we're gonna be doing on the boat, because he's basically trying to prove to my family that at the time I'm 21, maybe, I think. That he's going to like take care of their daughter as we set sail across the Pacific. Like, I mean, I was familiar and comfortable with boats, but I'd never been on a large sailboat, or I mean, I just
offshore.
Yeah, offshore. There were so many different things that I didn't know anything about. So, and his stories are great, but one of them includes demasting a sailboat on their way on his way to the Caribbean.
Did you tell our parents about that, Logan?
No, we kept that one to ourselves.
Oh, okay.
It was not user error. Let's just be clear.
Sure.
So what happened after you couldn't get through the Panama, or you couldn't get down to New Zealand? You got struck by lightning. Did the boat stay there? You guys came home. What'd you do?
Yeah, so it was an interesting one. We ended up we loved Panama. We stayed in Panama for 9 months. There's not really, at the time, there wasn't really services to do the refit. So I was essentially ordering everything. Caroline and I were ordering everything for the boat, having it shipped to the Furuno dealer there, and then installing it ourselves. Because the Furuno dealers there, they really are only doing the commercial fishing fleets and stuff. And they weren't getting to it. So we'd go over there and we just kind of bullshit them, and we'd say, "Hey, while I'm here, let me go ahead and carry this box over to the boat for you. It'll be less for you to carry, because this is like $50,000 worth of electronics." And eventually we had kind of stolen, I mean, we'd paid for all of it, but we'd taken everything out of their office and get back to the boat, and we were installing it as we went. Everything had changed from NEMA 0183 to NEMA 2000 at the time. And so every single cable had to be pulled up the mast, behind furniture, kind of all kinds of changes. So we had the boat, I mean, furniture pulled apart everywhere to kind of to do this refit. And then like months later, they were like, "Hey, we're ready to start the electronic stuff." And we're like, "It's done. We've already done it."
Pulling cables was definitely like the bane of our existence at that point in life.
Yeah.
It was just like, Painful.
So we
So
stayed there for 9
painful.
months, did a lot of surfing. We rented a car, and we would essentially kind of work 9 to 5. We'd work on the boat, and with getting things prepped and done. And it was a blue boat, like kind of a classic dark hull, lots of varnish, lots of stainless. So the boat needed hours of maintenance a week anyway, plus the refit. And then we just hung out in Panama, surfing, making friends. Um, and then left the boat there. Our kind of timeline was shot at that point. We weren't really ready to give going to New Zealand on that boat 2 years of our life, um, or more. So we went on a big European vacation, went to New York City, for a fun summer, and ended up buying a sailing school there. And that's kind of the beginning of the phase 2, I guess, of life.
Yeah.
So you had some pretty extensive cruising experience for a few years before you started to get a career with a sailing school.
Yeah, Caroline did. I never stopped. So at 18, I started when I was cruising at 18, that kind of turned into a captain job that I should not have taken. But at 18 and you're young and dumb, you're like, sure, I could do it. And then I went back to school, and then every Thanksgiving and Christmas break, I would do yacht deliveries, and in the summers. And then I took 2 or 3 semesters off. It took me a while to graduate college because I would take a semester off and run a boat. So I kind of kept current there, and then did raced in college, and then raced for a little while after college, for a company that was trying to create a new brand. Um, and then kind of did what maybe a lot of people do that wanted to be a professional racing sailor and don't make it, which is buy a sailing school. So that's where we ended up.
Was this in New York City, outside Long Island?
Yeah.
What were you
Yep.
guys at?
No, right in Manhattan, Upper West Side, and Pier 25 in Tribeca. So right on the Hudson River there, out of Manhattan. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. They had only 2 or 3 boats when we bought it. They kind of plateaued. The people that had started it were really good guys, but they were already focusing on other projects. And we were like, hey, this is kind of plateaued, but there's a lot of potential here. And so over the years, we opened up a new location. We expanded into other things like some marina management and film and TV stuff. And we had a lot of fun. We had a really awesome
Yeah.
staff of people,
Yeah.
that a lot of them you've met. They were at Cruisers Awards. We still
They're
see them all the
super fun.
time. They're like family now. And it's cool to build that, and watch people make careers out of it, buy a home, by being a manager there, and create a life around the sailing school. Because everything I'd been involved with to that date, sailing schools were kind of a little bit of a shit show, right? Like a lot of them are small and they don't do much, but New York City has 8 million people. And so we could grow it to a substantial enough size. It was fun and rewarding, I think, for everybody.
What was the period of time between the sailing school and you guys creating YCA? How did that happen? How did that evolve?
Yeah. So when we bought the sailing school, one of the reasons behind that was we knew we loved the idea of like seasonality in our work life, and that that buying that sailing school or working at the sailing school or whatever it was, we loved the thought that we could take 6 months, 7 months a year, and then have the remainder of the year off to go cruising. Because after working on the sailboat, we weren't ready to give up that part of our life. And so when we bought it in 2012, we would then take the large boat that would do like the ASA 103 coastal cruising classes and stuff. We would sail that down south and cruise for our time off. And we would sublet our apartment in New York City, and live simply on the sailboat for those months until we came back and got all the boats ready and did it again. And so one season, I don't remember what year that was, 2013, 2014, of sailing down in the Bahamas, we met this epic group of young cruisers. And at the time, Instagram, I don't think Instagram was around. Like there was definitely like the COVID bump of, younger people working remotely and cruising. That wasn't there. So it was pretty hard to find like a core group of younger people that were out like cruising on the water and to like be able to sail around with that group. So we had found this like group of people, and we would get on the radio. We would joke about the Young Cruisers Association and how we're all the young people in the harbor. And anyway, and so it kind of become this like we would have a secret channel that we would go to on VHF, and we would all stay in like communication on that. And
we could never replicate it. After that,
yeah,
years, we had a couple seasons where we had an awesome group of friends, and then we'd have a season where we didn't meet anybody. And we were like, not anybody, but anybody that we really clicked with. And we were friends with everybody of all age groups. Some of our best friends in the world from cruising are in their 80s.
yeah.
But you click differently with people that you have stuff in common with, obviously. So people that want to go spearfishing down deep, or that want to surf and do these other things. So we were like, we can't let that not be replicable.
Yeah.
You have to figure out a way that you don't miss somebody because they're one anchorage ahead of you or one anchorage behind you. You could have been your best friend, but we have no way of finding that. So
Yeah, so then there was also the aspect of that after we would come cruising in the winter, we would go back to New York City and we're working. And even though there's 8 million people in Manhattan or New York City or whatever the statistic is, like it was hard to find friends there as well. And so one summer I was there and I was like, we were there and we were just talking about like, wow, it's easier to find friends when you're cruising and you're like around, even though you're remote, you're around like these like-minded people. How do we replicate that in the city to be able to find these people? Out of 8 million people, there's somebody here.
There's cruisers
that has,
here.
yeah, that has like a similar lifestyle or similar hobbies or just like the love for being around the water, whatever it may be. And so we kind of got this idea of like if we could start a community that included people who have, are actively cruising, who have cruised in the past, who are dreaming of cruising, but they all have this one common bond of they want to take off in a different lifestyle before they retire. And so
you built.
So that's kind of where it like stemmed from. I feel like I built it one summer in 2017, the summer of 2017, as I was sitting alone in my apartment working in New York City. And I'm like, I want to find friends. And like, it was my way of like trying to find friends in the city, I guess. And so, that's kind of
and underway
and
making sure
yeah.
that next season when we got on the
Exactly.
boat to go cruising again, we could find friends. And I think Squarespace was out at the time, so Caroline made the website on Squarespace really fast. She showed it to me one day and I was like, wow. And then we talked about, do we want this to be public? Do we want this to be like a secret society where everybody gets to invite 5 friends and it's only kind of by invite only? And then we started the Instagram. We kind of started all the things. We were actually not going to have an Instagram to start with. We were going to be like anti-social media, like very, very edgy.
Did it take off right out of the gate? I mean, when you first put it out there, how did you let other people know, hey, if you're a young cruiser, join this association?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. So
how did it take off?
Yeah. So there was a little bit of like, we started it, right? And then we
had a lot of cruising
had a lot of friends. Yeah. So that's kind of where Logan was getting at. We were like, we started with this idea of like, if we tell all of our friends to invite their friends,
they're 10.
Right. They're 10 friends.
Yeah.
Then we're going to start creating this network, right? And if we can get this like network effect going, then everybody after that will invite 10 of their friends and it will be this cool people community, right? In our minds. And then we started realizing that everybody knows everybody. And so it was just like this like loop of
yeah. And that who are we to decide who's cool is not cool, right?
Exactly.
Because cool in our minds was just like somebody that was out there doing it. That if you're a friend of a friend, then there's an assumption that we're right, that you're good. Like if you or David sent us a message and said, hey, I've got a buddy that's only a couple miles away from where you guys are, we would assume that since we like you guys, that we're probably going to like them too. And that was kind of the goal. But it definitely was growing faster than we thought it would. We started the Instagram and that provided reach. And then that's when Caroline got pregnant.
Yeah.
with Albie, and that's when we were like, hey, we don't want to spend our time on Instagram. We could use some help here. And that was I don't know, a couple years later after starting it, and then that's when we started to grow the team a bit. So at that point, Brian came on, and was doing a fair amount of social media stuff, and that was good for growth. It's good reach. That's where the people were. And then after that, Riley and Elena came on.
So what are you at now? I mean, I love the fact that it started off organically and it just
Yeah.
exploded with the number of people who were interested in it. And Young Cruisers is not an age thing, it's a young at heart thing. But where are you
Yeah.
at now? How many Young Cruisers are part of the Young Cruisers Association, and
Yeah.
what's
I'm,
going
I'm
on
I
right
logging
was
now?
in.
about to say that's
Let
a
me
good
log in
question. I
right now to
haven't
see.
like
Hold
in a
on.
month or so. Uh,
So is this like a website? Is it when you're officially part of the Young Cruisers Association, what makes you
yeah.
part of that?
Yeah, so you can join. You go to the website, we have the Burgee membership, which is $50 a year, and it basically just gets you a free Burgee, and it's supporting our cause and keeping the lights on at YCA. So we don't do this obviously for the money, and it is that's just our way of kind of keeping up.
It's the opposite of doing it for the money.
Yeah, definitely not.
There's never been a dividend or a payout or anything.
And then you can just join as a free member. And what that does is it gives you access to what we have right now is like it's through a platform where you can go online and you can see like where members are. You can join the perks program, which will give you discounts to companies that have supported YCA. But it's just and being on the mailing list, and that's a huge, that's greatly important so we can get the news out about events that we're having or deals that partner brands are able to offer or stories of what some of the community is currently doing. So I think that the mailing list more than anything is what's exciting for us because we're able to connect directly with our members.
The dashboard right now is showing about 13,000 members.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, it's wild. I mean, when we first started, we thought maybe we would find 1,000 people out there cruising before retirement.
You didn't run across too many. You just didn't run across them.
Yeah, and so to see it grow like this is just it's pretty
Yeah,
mind-blowing.
I'm just going to jump in here a little bit because I want to transition this part of the conversation into
Okay.
how our partnership between Latitudes and Attitudes and YCA started. Because, I mean, I'll just tell you, I mean, there's so many things that I've always loved about the brand that you guys were part of creating. I love how it's incredibly relatable. I love how the website is so chill. I love how when I read down through things about where it all began, one comment that caught my eye when I first started researching you guys a little bit more was exploiting technology to find each other while not being exploited by technology. I always thought that was incredibly cool. I don't know which one of you brainiacs came up with that, but that was really good. Going down through some of the rules you have on your website, I think it's incredible. It's life, not retirement. Live the dream every day. But it's when I look at this, I remember, and I was just while you guys were explaining some of the backstory, I was going through our archives. It was in summer, I think, of 2022 when I first saw some kind of press release about you guys partnering up with Riley and Elena. Does that timeline sound about right? Maybe 2022-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Around there. Yeah.
We used to have a section of the magazine when we took it over from the previous ownership, whose name I will not mention. We we had something in there called a virtual cruising, and it was something that was sort of done to highlight some of the YouTubers that were out there starting this whole movement. Then I saw your thing about partnering up with Riley and Elena, who obviously they've got such a they're considered some of the OGs of the YouTube movement, whatever. There was an article in our winter issue 2023, which was issue 41, that I wrote about your organization, and I called it "Have a Seat at Our Table." And I think that's one of the things. That's when I started to, and it may have been evident and obvious to some people, but to me, it's like I'm a little slower sometimes. And I was starting to make the connections between the fact that we were trying to figure out how to take latitudes and attitudes into the next direction from where it had been with the previous ownership. Okay. And one of the things that I found as a synergy between organizations was it's all inclusive. Everybody has a seat at the table. And the previous ownership of the magazine, he would go to yacht clubs and stuff like that with cut off t-shirts and all this kind of routine. And he'd get shunned at some of the swankier places and whatever. So he was looking for basically his own seat at the table. And finally, he just said, screw it. I'm going to create my own damn table. And he started Latitudes and Attitudes magazine. So you guys had that synergy with us that everybody was always welcome. This was for everybody. So we wrote that
Yeah.
article, and that was in that winter issue. But then we started progressing forward with how we were going to interact with each other. And then the following fall issue is when you wrote an article for us.
Hmm.
You remember that one? And that was, I think it was about bingo cards and all that kind of fun stuff. That was pretty cool. And that's when I realized that you're either using Chat GPT or you're a damn good writer.
It didn't exist back then. Come on, give me some credit.
It's a couple years ago. Seriously? So, but that was our fall 2023 issue. And then so we've worked this partnership into where we support each other, and I feel like it's very balanced. I hope you
Yeah.
guys do too. But I want to talk a little bit more. But now that I've yapped, I'd like you to fill in the blanks for me.
No, I mean, we found a great partner in Latitudes and Attitudes because at the end of the day, if you boil down everything we just said about trying to find friends and being pre-retirement or any of that stuff, what it comes down to is finding your people. And what we felt like was our people were not the traditional yacht clubbies, not the tradition, in a lot of cases, not the traditional sailing clubs that had these strict rules and these strict, like, oh, if you haven't done X miles offshore, you can't be in this ocean cruising club because you don't count. And they have these gams and stand-ups that were unbelievably boring. And we were like, why don't we just flip the script a little bit and say, if you like Eric said earlier, if you feel like you're young at heart, if you feel like all that is bullshit and you want to find somebody to hang out with that wants to stay up late and drink a beer, is okay with cranking the music up a little bit, or any of these things, then or maybe you just like to read books and you're a quiet person, but I have no desire to, you never linked up with, you never bonded with any of those people, then YCA can be your home. And that's kind of what we felt like had some good parallels with Latitudes and Attitudes.
But you've also said, and I'm referencing parts of your website, that YCA has really been around forever.
Mhm.
And I know that we did a piece on Skip and Kit.
Yeah.
That was part of the original article that you wrote a
Yeah,
couple years ago.
it was important to me to write that article because to make it known that we weren't trying to pretend like we're the first, because people get lost in that a lot in thinking that they're special or that they've done something for the first time. And there's very few firsts anymore. And going cruising when you're young is definitely not a first. And I just wanted it to be clear to everyone that we respected those that came before us, that cruised at any age, but especially those that came before us. And somehow, in the 60s and 70s, when cruising really actually became a thing, that went out there and did it somehow before retirement. And that's before you could find a 30-year-old boat used on the used boat market, right? They didn't exist. You built your own boat. You worked at a boat company like Skip and Kit did, and you did what you could to get a boat together. But yeah, we're not the first. I mean, it's one of the lines in YCA's list of rules and mantras. I assume it's still on the website. Is we're not the first and we won't be the last, which
Nope.
essentially means don't fuck it up for everybody else, right? Like, leave the beach pristine when you leave the anchorage better than you found it, leave the culture that you were around better than you found it, and everything in between.
Well, I'm just going to say one last thing here, and then I'll turn it over to Eric. But when you just mentioned about a 30-foot boat, and I want to touch on the Cruisers Awards here in a bit, and how that whole came to be. But when I first when you guys had your first award ceremony and we were a sponsor, we were sitting there in the audience. And I got a chance to hear a little bit of your story when you talked about finding a boat on the scrap heap, right? And fixing it up and going cruising. Because I mean, Eric's been in this industry for more than
Ever.
20. Yeah, it seems like forever, probably going on 25 plus years. I've been doing this for probably 16, 17 years, and we've always heard the same stuff. Oh man, it costs too much to go boating. Oh man,
Hmm.
there's like these barriers to entry into the boating market that people that are in the industry, that are making products, that are running marinas, they fight this all the damn time because it's like, no, it doesn't cost a lot. And everything you said, and I'm not trying to kiss your ass any more than I probably already have, or increase your already overinflated ego. But what you summed up in that very short piece of time before the awards ceremony said it all. You don't break down those barriers and get people cruising, and
Yeah.
and we've talked about before that cruisers can change the world. And
Yeah.
we believe that it's good human beings. You know what I mean? And Lats and Ats supports that. And you guys.
Cruisers are some of the few people that are still in regular contact with cultures around the world that were, for better or worse, in a lot of ways. I might piss some people off here, but really, really impacted, and a lot of times in a negative way, by um, not just evangelicals, but people that kind of went around the world early on and tried to tame the savages. So you can see it in a lot of island nations where there's a lot of impact from early, like 50s and 60s attempts to essentially make everybody in the world a Christian, right? And I'm not anti-Christian by any means. What I'm saying is that was their viewpoint, and they went around the world to say, "Hey, we're gonna change these people," to try to. And a lot of times that came with changing the types of clothing people wore in certain areas. That came with, "Hey, these are the kind of sports you should play." And so I feel like it's kind of cool to see cruisers that have a very worldly view and a respectful view of all kinds of cultures and religions and all of that kind of still out there around, um, making positive impacts everywhere.
Amazing.
Just don't go to certain islands because you might get eaten.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Stay
is
away from-
okay. That's a good thing, right? Like that's a good thing.
That's
We
a
don't
that's a
need to
good thing.
rescue those people.
Yeah. You don't like that guy.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, go check out those natives. So I got
Yeah.
to tell just a real quick story here, and I won't belabor this, but it was probably one of the most impactful things that has happened to me since we bought Latitudes and Attitudes. I was scared shitless buying this magazine. I'm an aspiring cruiser, but I'm not deep in the cruising community. I mean, we've got a boating magazine called Scuttlebutt, which is mostly a powerboat magazine up here in the Great Lakes. But being an aspiring cruiser, I will mention the previous owner's name, Bob Bitchin. When he twisted my arm about buying this magazine, uh, he's like, "I'm 80. I'm done. I want to retire." And I took a look at the publication. I was like, "This is exactly what I want to do for my future." And the one thing that really impressed me about the publication is like, Eric, the only thing that I want to do is I want to help people cast the lines off and just go. The
Yeah.
whole point and purpose of this magazine is to inspire
Yeah.
people to just cast the lines off and go. You'll
Yeah.
find if it's going to happen out there, right? You'll find out what it's like once you get out there. And if you want to do it, break down every barrier you can possibly think of, and if you can't, find somebody else that can break down those barriers and go.
Yeah.
And so that inspired me. And I was, so much so inspired that I went ahead and bought this magazine. And as I was looking around at the first Miami Boat Show and the small little space that had become the sailing part of that show, and the lack of new boat sales, and the non-interest in a lot of things sailing as it had been in the years past, I'm like, whoa, this might have been a mistake. But then that fall, I went to the Annapolis Sailboat Show. There, we were invited by you and Caroline to come to the Young Cruisers Awards. And I had no idea what to expect. I'm like, okay, these guys have done some articles for us. This is great. Let's see what this whole community is all about. When I went to the awards, I don't know if you remember this or not, it was probably the most electric thing I have ever been involved with in the entire boating industry. It was cool. I
Yeah.
mean, cool. The
Yeah.
people, the environment, the vibe, everything was screaming, this is it. This is where you want to be. This is who you want to be with. I was just so comfortable. And I thought I found home, really, with the people and that whole environment. And it was just absolutely spectacular. And then it hit home because somebody up on stage had mentioned Lynn Party. I knew that name because she's been sailing forever. And somebody asked about, well, Lynn, how many miles do you have under your belt? And she says, well, the first 100,000 was without a motor,
Yeah.
which impressed the hell out of me because I had no idea that she got 300 plus thousand miles under her belt. But then it was a Lifetime Achievement Award, and the entire audience, there were 500 people there, more. I don't even know how many you guys invited, but there were a ton of people there. Standing ovation for 10 minutes, applauding Lynn and her accomplishments. And it goes to what you were saying before, Logan, that this is a community. This is a tribe, as I love the way that you normally call it out. It's your tribe of people. And yeah, so we've been extremely grateful for the partnership with
I
YCA
wanna
and
I
love
wanna
the
ask
Cruiser
about these
Awards.
awards. I want you to talk about the awards real quick that Eric just mentioned because
That
and I
was my
love
segue, David. I don't know if you knew that or not,
it
but
was beautiful, buddy. It's
That
beautiful.
was.
I for one appreciate how you guys have paid homage to the past of the cruisers that are out there and the legends, the true legends that came before everybody else. But I mean, Logan, you and I sort of talked about this, I think, in the beginning when we started our partnership, and I was getting to know who you were and who ICA was. That you know, it's almost like YouTube, like you were like not anti YouTube. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like you weren't the biggest fan of it. You know what I mean? But it was like it was part of what the cruising lifestyle was becoming, was people putting their stuff together for everybody to see. So I think you had a conflict in your brain about that, right? And somehow the award ceremony came up.
Yeah. So it's interesting because my only internal conflict ever was wanting everybody to be out there cruising for themselves and for the experience and not for the content. And I think that's where my brain always kind of was. And that's what started to really scare me as somebody that was cruising, still young. I just started cruising when I was super duper young,
Yep.
um, before social media, and watching social media impact cruising and the industry. And that was in two ways. One was that we would see less interactions with people in the harbor. So you'd pull into a harbor in the past, or a boat would pull into the harbor. You'd notice they're somewhat similar of age, which is super rare. You'd go ripping over to their boat in the dinghy as fast as you could. You'd be like knocking on their hull, like, "Hey, what are you guys doing tonight?" And you'd have the instant connections. And a lot of times you'd end up cruising for weeks together. And every single time, you almost never met somebody you didn't want to have beers with. And we would start rolling over to harbors. Um, or rolling over to a boat, and the person would be in their cockpit scrolling on their phone
Yep.
and not that excited to get out and go do something because they had everything they needed in that box in their hand. They had their connection with everybody back home. They had their entertainment. They had these things. And so we made a personal choice not to do YouTube. We saw YouTube start. We talked about it in the very, 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 very beginning of, we had a boat, we were cruising. We were like, this is 2010. We talked about, should we document stuff? Should we have a YouTube channel? And we kind of decided that wasn't the life for us. And then we started to meet YouTubers that we really liked. We never were anti YouTube or YouTubers, just maybe wanting it to go in a way that stayed positive, and making sure that, that we didn't ever look back and be like, oh, cruising was cool before YouTube. And so that's when we were kind of like, okay, this is actually inspiring a lot of people. The YouTube is doing what magazines and posters and chats around campfires with friends that had gone sailing, however people found inspiration to go cruising before, or a Lynn Party book or whatever. And it was doing that on a mass scale. And that was really, really inspiring and cool. Meeting YouTubers that were doing it for the right reasons was really inspiring and cool. And then it became obvious that whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're anti-YouTube, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're black, white, it doesn't matter. You're still a young cruiser. So nobody should be judged based on how they earn a living or what they do. And more importantly, I think we needed to find a way to strike a balance between, hey, sailing NYCA can be promoted by and be positive impact with YouTube and Instagram and all these platforms, yet still highlight and really hold on a pedestal people that don't do that. And that was the beginning of Cruisers Awards, which was, the industry was starting to put a lot of weight on YouTubers, right? Companies only wanted to partner with YouTubers. It was like every single person we met when we were cruising, we were still rare to be a young couple cruising. We pull into a harbor, we type to a dock, and within 5 minutes, somebody asked us if we had a YouTube channel. And we're like, no, we don't have a YouTube channel. I'm like, oh, why not? And we're like, we don't want one. And so it was kind of at that point, it was pretty clear that people that were out there doing it were feeling a little bit like maybe they were doing it wrong. And that was a terrible thing for anybody to ever feel, right? Nobody should ever feel like they're cruising wrong, right? Because they don't have an Instagram account or they don't have YouTube that enough people kind of contact you and they're like, why don't you do this? Or why aren't you doing that? And as time progressed, it was kind of clear that, we wanted to do an award show that held non-content creators on the same pedestal as content creators, because we loved and had become friends with so many content creators. And we also knew all these people that were going on these absolutely epic trips or doing epic boat refits or doing these things that were equally as impressive. They just chose not to film themselves doing it.
And appreciating the work that's involved with both of those, right? So like with creating a YouTube video, like the amount of work, I think that's what we really started to see as well, is like we met people who had these channels that was their source of income for cruising. Like the amount of work that they were putting into creating these videos for their channel. And then also on the flip side, like the amount of work that you have to do for the boat and everything that's not channel involved and video production involved, but like trying to see like you should be commemorated for like what you are doing. It's an accomplishment, right? Like, and same goes for somebody who is crossing the Pacific solo for 85 days or whatever because something happens crazy, or inspirational cruiser and things like this. So we were like trying to make a space where everybody is highlighted for the work or the accomplishments that they have, regardless of any barrier.
It would have been very easy to just have like the YouTube awards, and we could have had 10 categories of nothing but YouTube, right? Most views of the year, most engagement, all the other YouTube things we have. But the real mission there was trying to have also categories that required no social media. Photo of the year. You don't have to have a social media account to win photo of the year. And I think some of the past winners are not even on social media. And inspirational cruiser, remote adventure of the year. All these things don't require having social media, yet in the same format and in the same night, we can have YouTube channel of the year, right? We can have Instagram of the year. And that we can bring people that you've never heard of, but are producing incredible content and put that in the same spotlight as the YouTubers and other people was just really fun to see happen, and really cool to see the community and the respect that everybody has for each other. I think that's the coolest thing is, anybody that doesn't have respect at this point for what it takes to cruise or refit a boat and film it all for YouTube is dreaming, because it's another full-time job.
One thing you really ought to mention, Logan, is that the judges on these different categories that you have are world-renowned people. They are highly expertise in their field. I mean, we're talking about the cream of the crop. We're not talking
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
hey, your
Yeah.
buddy Ray's cousin just finished his
Yeah.
Yeah.
blue ribbons. Now he's going to take a look at these videos and tell you which one he likes the best. Talk to us a little
That
bit about who the judges are.
that was a fun part, I think, for us was from being in New York City and a few other random connections. Um, we just started to create a really cool network of human beings in this world. And so when we went to do the awards, we wanted to do a production level that was super high, like nothing that happens, right? Not standing on a box in the middle of a boat show, kind of handing out pieces of paper. We wanted to do something like literally the production level of something like the Emmys or something like that. Unfortunately,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say, and we wanted that energy that you were talking about. We
Yeah,
wanted everybody to
high
feel
pace.
like this is the place to be. I feel home, right? I feel
Mission
like I'm
accomplished.
surrounded by
Yeah,
people.
thank you.
So, sorry.
We had a good example. I grew up going to the Banff Mountain Film Festival. The Banff
Yeah.
Mountain Film Festival is like super high energy, super high paced. The way they put everything together is awesome. So we wanted to bring some components from there. We'd had some great chances in New York to be do some on water production with companies like Vivo and Amazon Prime, and had some kind of like a little bit of a peek into what it really takes to pull off good shit. Um, and then we started thinking about the network of people we had that could be judges. And some of it's quite random, right? So Hayes Baxley, who is an Emmy winner documentary filmmaker, he did The Secret Life of Whales. He was my college roommate. Um, we have let's see. We got Mark Smith, who wrote The Revenant, and he has 2 or 3 shows on Netflix. He was my neighbor growing up. His daughter and I grew up together. My little brother judged. He's a National Geographic explorer. We had Riley and Elena brought in Kara and Nate that
Hmm.
are a massive YouTube channel.
Oh my God, my
Hank,
wife watches them all the time. Oh,
yeah, they're good travel
oh,
hackers.
God.
Hank Hinckley, boat building legend, obviously of Hinckley Yachts. He became a good friend from being in Maine for a few summers as a boat captain. Lynn Party, obviously, she got connected with YCA and she came over. Um, Nicole Barnes,
Yeah.
Nicole Barnes, Nikki Henderson, those were good ones for Riley and Elena to just shoot a DM on Instagram and say, hey, we're doing these awards. Do you want to judge? And they came on. We got Olympians and world record holders. And so it was just kind of a fun chance to say, hey, and I think that's one reason why it worked was because some of the YouTube creators realized that they were not being judged by um, some random person, right? Like the somebody that works for Highfield or Latitudes and Attitudes. Not that you guys are random, but like these were people. These were people. The chance to have your content seen by the guy that that has Leonardo DiCaprio on speed dial and writes shows for Netflix and Emmy winning documentarians. That's pretty cool. Like that would be what we assumed would be a really nice thing for them to have the chance to do. So over the years, it's morphed a little bit. We now have a lot more. This last year, we did a lot more peer
You're
judging.
judging, yeah.
So we had the celebrity judges, and we also allowed finalists, all the finalists from the previous year, to be judges, assuming that, hey, if you're a finalist in Best YouTube Channel, you're a YouTube creator, you know what it takes to create a YouTube episode. You should also be judging the next year.
Yeah. And we changed that based on we did like a group like what do you call that? What am I? I'm blanking on the word.
A round
Case
table.
study. Yeah, like a round table. With a group of finalists from the previous year and kind of said, okay, if you could change things about how judging goes, about how the
Yeah.
Cruisers Awards in general, like what would that be? And so we had like a list of suggestions and we tried to do as many of those as we could.
Yeah.
So we're
Any
sitting here
parts more
talking
of
about
the-
all this digital stuff. We're talking about all this digital stuff, right? And I want to segue this a little bit because I want your opinion on some of this stuff. So we have this little publication called Latitudes and Attitudes magazine, right?
Paper
I got, I got,
magazine.
I know it's a paper magazine. It's almost like the old vinyl records, right? Maybe they're cool
Yeah.
again. Who knows? But so Eric buys this thing. Eric disappeared. Eric buys this thing, and then Eric talks me into coming and helping him work on this thing and continue to grow this thing. And I'll just be honest with you and tell you that I mean, I'm one of those people that always went against the grain. So everything that this magazine represents and whatever, it feels right. It just feels
Mm-hmm.
like it feels like home every single time I put out a brand new issue and I work on it. But so we've got all the digital stuff that's going on there. Then we have this publication. We're still as relevant as ever as we used to be. Why do you think that is? And like how is LA surviving in this digital environment we're in?
Because you partner with YCA.
And
there you go.
the winner of the YCA International Awards with the best photo of the year goes on to
Yep.
Yeah.
The
Attitudes
magazine
and Attitudes
cover.
magazine every year.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think I
How's
said
that for
this,
a plug?
David. I had said this, David, a few years ago, to you, and I still think it's true. There's a difference between smashing 6 or 7 Coors Lights or whatever other beer you drink with, on a Saturday in the hot sun, and sitting down at dinner and having a glass of red wine, and having something that you can enjoy and go slow with and maybe revisit the bottle the next day. Um, and print to me is that it's almost like print has taken on a new chapter in its life where it used to be the place to go to for the content, and it's not anymore, right? The content happens instantly online. But what makes it into print must be more special. And I think that's why picking up a magazine and having a magazine on your table, finding yourself in a magazine, especially, but having something that you can have and hold and flick through that is a little bit more thought through. It's longer form, right? So kind of the same, not to draw too many beverage parallels, but it's like nice wine is full and round in your mouth. And it's like, okay, this is something that it's full and it's fulfilling and it's good. And it's thought through and it has some legacy to it and all these kinds of things that a longer form article can do. And
it's perfectly curated for you
well
too, right?
curated,
Like,
especially your magazine.
yeah.
That'll go to
But
David's head.
yeah, but I think it's a hard thing for you all as editors and publishers because you're held to a higher standard now than ever before, right? When people are able to see photos instantly and read things quick, then when they open a magazine, they expect it to be damn good, good pieces and articles that make you think. And the same way to me, I guess books are not gone, right? Everybody thought that the Kindles and all these things were going to put paper books out of completely off the shelves, and they're not gone because it's still nice to have and hold something in your hand too. There's that hand feel, I think, a bit as well, but it's hard to find long form content online.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really is. There's single bloggers and blog pages, but everybody's screen time, if you open their phone, is filled with YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. None of which is a full article.
It's been really exciting for us as we've grown this relationship with you guys, and as we've worked to engage more with cruisers who on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and whatever, our content is rolling in like crazy from people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it comes down to like we'll publish an article from somebody. We'll see something on Instagram and we'll be like, my God, that'd be an amazing article. So we approach them and say, hey, would you mind writing us an article? And they've never written before. And they send us an article. And next thing you know, it's like it ends up in print. And they're so ridiculously stoked about that that they're ordering copies. They're having friends of theirs go to every West Marine they can and buy every magazine up. And then they're telling their friends. It's like we have so much of this content right now that's rolling into us. It's like it's a good problem to have because we got to figure out what to actually put in print. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It can get better and better. The more that comes, the better it gets. And I think it just means that even more so, that's good proof that being in print is like the ultimate legitimizer. Like anybody can upload a YouTube video, anybody can have an Instagram account, anybody can have a Twitter. Not everybody gets published. And
Not everybody gets a cover of Rolling Stone either.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so when you get to that point in whether you're a content creator or not, just a cruiser that went out and did something really cool. It's like the ultimate justification and legitimization, I think, of what you've done, to see it printed and to see that, a magazine editor thinks that it's worth being in print. It's pretty cool.
Everything evolves, media evolves. Radio didn't go away because TV came around,
Yeah.
right? So let's talk a little bit about Sea People, because this is how uh, things evolve. We're talking about a tribe. We're talking about a community. We're talking about people with like interests that are getting all together. Right now, Sea People is absolutely an amazing app that helps so many cruisers in so many different ways. Logan, Caroline, if you don't mind, just give us an overview of where Sea People's at right now.
Yeah, so right now,
The news from yesterday.
oh yeah, yesterday we were featured in over 100 countries as the app of the day in the Apple App Store. So that was a
Congratulations.
milestone
Huge
accomplishment.
milestone for a small niche app.
Yeah, it feels very
It
I'll
hasn't,
validating.
drink to that. I'll
Yeah,
drink to
thank you. I
Yeah.
will do. Cheers.
Not the number one boating app or the number one travel app, but the app of the day for every
Yeah.
single app in the App Store.
Yeah, I think it was like 120, 130 countries that we were featured in. So,
Not the USA. We're still waiting on
yeah,
that one.
waiting on USA and Australia.
That one will be good.
But yeah, no, things are really exciting. It's very fast paced. It's continually seeing how this community of boaters around the world come together and inspire each other and connect, and just the stories that we're able to hear out of Sea People, of somebody finding crew to go through the Panama Canal with, or somebody being able to go sailing for their first time, kind of talking about the barriers, right, that there are to cruising and things. And I do feel like Sea People is helping to break some of those, which is kind of what keeps us all going too, right? And like anyway, but yeah, no, things are great. It's
And
a lot of
infinite,
fun.
and it has infinite reach. I think that's
Yeah.
what's interesting about Sea People as a company, is that beyond any of the other projects we've done, and Caroline and I have been involved in the past, like Cruisers Awards and YCA, this new project has the ability to expand beyond cruising, and I think do it in a way that respects that people still want to be in touch with just their niche community, but capitalize on the data that everybody else can provide them. So in other words, well, what a tanker is doing offshore, you might not think that matters to you at all, but at some point we'll be able to get to a point with the product where not only could you communicate with them more easily, they never answer the VHF, but maybe they're on there, right? They're a Sea People user, and they're someone you can talk to, you can get advice from. You can ask them if are you in the Gulf Stream, or are you out of the Gulf Stream? But there's also routes, right? Heat mapping of where everybody's going, and the routes they classically take. You could be sitting in the DR thinking about, okay, how do I want to get to Puerto Rico? What's the most common path people are taking, north or south of Mona Island? Where all kinds of examples where heat maps, I think,
Yeah.
can benefit people, but then also just having the entire boating community in one spot for safety reasons is something that technology is going to really change. And there's no reason why we can't make it to where every day that you go to head to your boat, whether you're on the lake or you're on the ocean, powerboat, sailboat, doesn't matter, that Sea People is the first spot where you would go to check if there's a water quality advisory,
Yeah.
if there's floating debris in the water, if there's a channel marker that's broken off, anything that might affect your day on the water.
Yeah, and it's kind of coming back to that whole community vibe, right? Of like, we started Young Cruisers because we wanted for all of these cruisers to have a seat at the table, and to not have like these crazy strict rules about who you had to be a part of that tribe. But like, it's kind of the same with Sea People, of like, okay, let's break down the barriers of like sailboaters, power boaters, kayakers. Like, we're all people who enjoy being in or around the water, and let's all come together to provide better communication, better safety, better tracking, better logbooking, all of these like utility functions that can bring like more value to users as a whole.
Yeah, Yeah, not
So,
not and not to so Sea People is kind of like a Great American Loop Association, like the flag behind you, Cruising Club of America, whatever, YCA, they're all kind of niche boating communities. And each of those niche boating communities can find a place in Sea People, but they can also kind of benefit from everybody else being there in the same place at the same time.
yeah.
So what's next? I mean, we're approaching the boat show season here. I mean, we're getting ready for our fall boat show issue. We're putting it together right now as we do this podcast. We're in the middle of doing that. So I know you've committed to writing another piece for us to keep this whole, you
Yeah,
know,
going backwards, if you're talking about the affordability stuff, I think that the piece that we're gonna write um, for YCA for you was a lot about that, right? Getting out and going,
yep.
and the going on a budget, on any budget. So we've got a few people in the YCA that have provided content. So the cool thing is that won't just be coming from my dumb head. It'll be everybody. It'll be a few people's perspectives from our community. So that'll be kind of nice.
Thank God for that. I'm getting tired of reading your stuff.
So we'll do
Yeah.
we'll do that, and then yeah, excited to see you all in Annapolis.
Yeah. And what's next? We're going to go meet some Sea People users that just came in off of a 3-day passage into the town
Yeah.
we're in. So we're gonna go
Yeah, it was cool.
welcome them as we watched them sail in offshore on the tracking map. It was exciting, and so we were like, "Hey, let's meet up."
Yeah.
It's
So-
pretty crazy. People always talk about what a small world we live in, but with everything that you guys have done with the cruising community and YCA is doing and Sea People's helping to bring people together, it makes it even tighter and smaller, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Guys, I really want to thank you for your time today. You have been such an integral part of the cruising community over the years that it's hard to understate. Usually we have like influencers or content creators on here, stuff like that. And to have somebody who's really kind of behind the scenes, helping to push our community forward and together is really nice. And it's been an incredible joy and pleasure to have you guys here today. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. We really appreciate all that you're doing for the cruising community.
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, we
You're great.
appreciate that. We've intentionally always stayed kind of invisible. And I think that like if you look at the YCA website, you won't see there's not even a page that talks about founders. There's no pictures. You won't see on the Instagram us pointing the camera at ourselves or typically any of the other founders. And I think that was because we wanted YCA to feel like it was for the people, and it was theirs. It wasn't ours, right? And it does make you invisible, which is a good thing. That's kind of, we enjoy that a bit. We, like we said earlier, we have intentionally never did a YouTube channel because that's just not our lifestyle. And yeah, it's been really interesting to strike the balance between working with some of the most visible people in cruising, and kind of staying, for the most part, somewhat invisible ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, again, we appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in Annapolis Sailboat Show coming up here in middle October. Always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to giving my invite to the Young Cruisers Award as well.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, it needs to be mentioned that Latitudes and Attitudes will once again be sponsoring the photo of the year. And I do have to mention that we were actually involved in the first Sea People Challenge, right? That's
The first one.
Yep.
that you guys did, and I'm proud to say, and we'll go ahead and throw that into this podcast. But the photo that won it will be the photo of the fall boat show issue coming up next on the cover. So we're pretty stoked about that.
Yeah.
But now it can't be in the running for photo of the year. It can't be.
No.
Or maybe
No,
it
they're
can.
out.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Oh man, yeah, people loved that challenge. Like it was so exciting to like the thought of being able to be on the cover of a magazine. Like it was just people were loving it. It was awesome.
I think
So thank
Elena
you, guys.
Elena dropped a couple hints that she wants to be in the cover of a magazine.
More than a couple. More than a
Yeah,
couple.
More than a couple.
More than
And
a
it's
couple,
like,
yeah.
I'm starting to feel sorry for Elena because she's throwing out she's like, I've never been on a cover. Well, I don't know. Take a number.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll put you in the cover of Let's and That's one of these days.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate it. We wish you all the best and all
Thank you.
that you're doing. And we'll look
Yeah.
forward to catching up with you again here soon.
All right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Have a
Madison.
great one.
You too.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
My mind is made up. I'm gonna sail away. Latitudes and attitudes will help me find my way with my loving cup. A little salt and a